All right, welcome back to another segment of Awake the Iron. I'm your host, Kason Pratt. I am without my wingman, CJ, the Lion of Los Sunnyvale, but we have two great guests on today from the band Order of the One, Rob and Matt, and they're going to talk to us about the inspiration behind the group, the music, and specifically their newest release, which is an epic called Masked Man. It's great to have you guys on. I really appreciate your time. And today we're with Rob and Matt, who are part of Order of the One, a band that has a lot of inspiration behind it, right? I mean, this thing has been in the works for a while, and I just wanted to give you guys some time to, talk with our audience about like what you do, what your mission is, what your goal is for your music, what inspired you to start it up, what inspired some of your songs, especially your new one that we can talk about. And but maybe first, if each of you guys give us a little bit, just a quick background, just kind of know, where you're coming from, Matt. It's good to meet you, and I talked to you once, what was it, a week or so ago, and yeah, thanks for coming on. Just tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll go to Rob real quick.
Sounds good. I've been around for a minute on the internet block of things. President of the University of Science and Philosophy is the venue that Rob and I met at in Waynesboro, Virginia. I decorated and set up the Russell Art Museum, one of the top 10 biggest museums in the state. And he came to a homecoming and we started talking about music. And that was pretty much the end of my not playing anymore, to picking up the bass and jumping back into music almost on a full-time basis, not right out of the gate, but 2023, October, I think it was, right, Rob?
I think so. Yeah.
Talking about things, and his band is Dream Theater, my band is Rush, so immediately said, all right, we're prog heads, so let's bump our heads together and see what the hell comes out of this. So we had some ideas. We put an initial jam together, and for me, I started back when I was about 7 years old. I got this little piano, this little chime piano, 1 octave or so, maybe an octave and a half, and it was called oh hell, I don't even know. It's on the Order of the One website in the history section, which we're both historical. We're actually considered classic, just to the fact that we're over 25 years old. So if you're over 25, you're a classic as well. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but so yeah, lots of bands. My whole biography is up there at orderoftheone.com, and just started out with keyboards. I eventually moved into singing and playing keys with various different recording projects when I was young. We recorded cassette tape, of course, and then eventually Fostex reel-to-reel, and moved up to digital in 2010. I got Pro Tools finally, and then just revamped the whole studio to form Order of the One. So I've been in a lot of bands, a lot of recording projects. I've written over 400 songs on my own, as well as another 100 or so with other bands. So a lot of solo work in the years, the interim between living in St. Louis, where there was a plethora of musicians available, and then moving to Salem, Missouri in 2002, where there was nobody that played prog rock. So it's nice to be what I call home again in the music creativity land of expressing and learning to express your genius within, which is something I consider prog to be, is sort of an application of musical insanity mixed with some type of semblance of normalcy and reality. But all the prog guys in the business are phenomenal, talented people, and I can't say enough about Rob's talent. I call him lightning, for lack of a better word, because I'm always behind him, being the thunder of the band. But it's nice to be able to accompany such a great musician as he, and the writing we're doing and just the stuff we've done so far is some of the most rewarding music I've ever made in my life. So that brings me to the future and, basically enjoying the present, but the future has a lot of potential as well. And we're working toward that one song at a time. We just released Masked Man, an epic 13-minute plus long rock opera, you could say. And we're kind of enjoying that. Rob, go ahead, bud.
Yeah, I mean, ditto for me as far as your comments there at the end. I mean, working with you is this is absolutely the best music that I've ever been a part of, and recording and creating and producing. It's just been phenomenal. And I haven't been in nearly as many bands as Matt has been. He's been in so many. I've been in bands from, gosh, when I was about 15 on through high school, and then I've been in a couple of bands in college. And then after that, I kind of took a 10-year break when I got married. I was in a band a little while after college, but then when I got married at about that time, I kind of left that. And then when I started getting back into music again after that, when somebody invited me to play with them. And then after a while, then I said, all right, maybe I'll join a cover band, trying to find the right person to actually work with to record music that I wanted to do. I told our bass player at the time, like the one before Jeff, who was with us for a short while, that I wanted to do like positive, uplifting kind of a project, more spiritually uplifting and things like that. And he wanted to do all this depressing music, and he just laughed at me, and he was pretty much gone soon after that. And then we had to find a new bass player. But yeah, when I found Matt, I mean, there were so many synchronicities, and I should have looked through that list. Like, I have a list somewhere of all the synchronicities that were there that kind of pointed to Matt as being the one that I should be working with. And we met at the, like you said, at the museum, and we spoke for about 90 minutes during the creative break that were doing these creative labs. But I ended up talking to him for 90 minutes about every subject under the sun. And I did know that he was a musician, but I didn't realize that he was such a gifted musician as he is. I mean, he's written over 400 songs. He's an incredible talent. He just pulls stuff right out of thin air. I mean, he wrote Masked Man in really minutes, at least the melodies and stuff. They just came to him in a flash, and it's amazing to work with somebody like that. I mean, that happens to me with guitar solos. Like some of the solos that I've written, like for the Holy Trail and for Black Swan, those came to me right away. But the one for the Divine, I struggled with for a while, but the ones for Masked Man, for the most part, just came right out too. But I can't write songs like this guy. This guy is the freaking best poet, the best person with words in general that I've ever met. And I'm a journalist background major as well, as is my wife. I just think so highly of Matt, and he's the dream person to collaborate with, honestly, for me.
Well, that's excellent. And I want to talk about Masked Man, of course. That's the new song. I listened to it like 10 times probably. It's really good.
Really cool.
Great,
Yeah,
thank you.
it's really good. Because for a lot of reasons. Musically, it's great. It I don't want to give away the game if somebody wants to hear it and like no spoilers, but maybe music's a little different than movies. But it, and I want to get the story on the inspiration behind it, but it has a lot of layers to it, I feel like, and there's even that synth part in the middle, which is really super cool, by the way. And then like after that, it feels different. And Rob said something about positive. He wanted to do music that was positive, and somebody else wanted to do something that's like dark and gloomy. We've had plenty of dark and gloomy. I'm kind of done with the dark and gloomy, and I think it's a failure of mine, even with this show, not trying to think about, not really purposely not trying to think about, but we focus on all this weird stuff, and then like the show ends, and then we never really were like, yeah, but this is what we can do, or this is how we move forward. And in our phone conversation last week, Matt said something that really hit me about making our own solution. Or do you remember that, Matt? We talked about that, like creating our own solution instead
Building
of,
alternative systems. Yeah.
yeah, and it was just really good. So the positive part of the song "Masked Man," I feel like, and you can correct me if I'm misinterpreting, but like at the end, it's got a good end to it, and that after that synth part, the song really, it starts feeling like aggressive, but like in a okay, we're gonna do something good way.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, am I
Love it.
picking up what you're laying down?
Yeah,
So-
100%.
Yeah, I'm
Absolutely.
not a musician, but I grew up in a family of musicians, so maybe my music antenna is a little more vibrant than some. But anyway, what's I want to know the inspiration. I mean, it's called Masked Man. Maybe some people, if they're followers of this show, they'll be like, oh, okay, we probably know what that's kind of where that comes from. But can you tell us about, the inspiration behind that?
Yeah, I was at a heater terrace store. That's what I like to call it. That way we don't get sued. But I was shopping for veggies to make a stir fry, and there's a produce guy stacking apples, and I jokingly say he had a diving helmet on, but he had a classical surgical mask, and it was literally January 25. And I'm just thinking to myself, man, the pandemic's over. If you don't know by now what this whole thing was, a pharmaceutical controlled experiment, basically, then God help you. And the image of that stuck with me for all the ride home, staying with Rob, in between work in Virginia. On my way home to Missouri, I stopped by Rob's for a 2 or 3 day visit to write some music. And so I tell him this, and he goes, oh man, I've always wanted to write a song called Masked Man, because I'm just so tired of seeing people masked up, and they're not understanding what's going on, and how this was a psychological warfare, on the level of 9/11 times 9/11 cubed, basically, to bring in this global tyrannical, social credit system and all that. I'm sure your listeners are familiar with that, and as are mine on my podcast and others that Rob and I jointly listen to. But it was a moment where I said, holy crap, let me go grab my laptop. Masked Man, as he said those words, I started to hear this melody, and I'm like, what the hell? And then I start hearing, and I'm like, where's this? Obviously I know where it's coming from, being a very creative person. It's the inner voice, sort of that inner world that you can create and inhabit through inward thinking, which is the other direction of thinking, not just outwardly towards your senses, but inwardly towards your mental faculties, your imagination. I like to call it the imagination, where magicians dwell, both good and bad. But so that was a very quick turnaround. I grabbed that laptop and we sat down at his dining room table, and for 2 hours we typed out every lyric, every scene for the video that we're currently working on. And that was pretty much the beginning of that. And so we had the entire lyrics written all in 2 hours, and the theme, the gallop, and the chorus, and the was all in my mind. And from that point, I just had to take it out and write it down. Like the scene in Amadeus where he says, I paid you for this. Where's the symphony, Amadeus? Where's the symphony, Mozart? He says, it's all here in my head. He goes, it's not doing us any good in your head. Write it down. For the love of God, write it down. So the next 17 months and 29 days were spent putting it into an actual form, crystallizing that inspiration into a physical form called notes, song, melody, rhythm, lyrics, vocals, backup vocals, guitar leads, keyboard parts, and really down to the nuts and bolts. We fine-tuned this entire thing together and found a great drummer out of Raleigh, North Carolina. Hats off to you, Ryan Massacre, for your incredible tracks. He finished the product basically, and so yeah, that was really just an amazing thing to take part of. We could have done it in probably 6 months, but it was something that, being in 2 different states, working over the internet, and I basically did 3 different bass tracks 3 times over and was happy with the third one. Rob had to really work with the guitar and the tone because he was doing things with microphones that I don't have any clue about. I'm kind of retarded when it comes to all that stuff, but the finished product is just a mega symphony of, descending into hell. It's a classical hero's journey. The hero is he descends into hell and he learns a bunch of stuff while he's there. And then he goes into nature to integrate it all and then comes out wearing leather with biker boots and ready to kick ass into games and ride off on his Harley in the sunset. And that's kind of how I describe it.
Yeah, that's great. Rob, anything to add to that?
Yeah, it's when we were here, when I suggested the Masked Man thing, I had this vision of the Lone Ranger in my head riding on the plains up to somebody who's wearing a surgical mask, right? And I just got the sense, what would he think at that point in time? And he would just kind of shake his head in disgust and ride away. And I created a meme for that as well that I have somewhere. But even the other day, I think it was yesterday, I went to that same store that he was talking about, which is about 2 miles from my house, and I see a father and a son shopping there together, and they're both wearing masks still in 2026 in June. I couldn't believe it. And it was so disappointing. And the father had a Mario Brothers shirt on. And, that's interesting to me because the last video I had posted was that little silly video game related video about the two of us running. I don't know if you saw that one, but yeah, that was kind of funny.
Yeah,
and
the background of that is I said, Rob, you got to have a synth sound on your, what's your VX pedal called? I'm sorry. The
VP4.
Your VP4. I go, you got to have a cool synth sound to do that big giant Doctor Who lead at the end of the song. Ding. And he goes, yeah, let me see. And he sends me a sample, and it sounds like he goes, but it sounds like a video game. I don't know if we should use this. And I'm like
back from the 80s.
That's the only AI that I've ever made in terms of a video that I've actually posted on the internet. And I said, here's our photo of the 2 of us. Give me a Mario Brothers. And I put the music to that and sent it over to him, and it was the funniest damn thing. So we had to use it in there. But yeah, that's the story behind that.
Well, that's great. And it reminds me of I didn't realize when we spoke before and you mentioned kind of the inspiration behind it, I didn't realize that was 2025 when you saw that guy. And it just like burned that image in your mind. I had a similar one. I mean, I see people still here and there, masked up and stuff, and I'm just like face palming myself. But the back during the heat of it, 2020 or even 2021, I saw this more than once, but it's burned into my mind, is a guy in a vehicle alone. Windows up, with a mask on, and it went beyond the realm of ridiculous, and I was like heartbroken on behalf of that person. Like it crushed me for some reason. And I just thought, how sad is your life if you're that scared and you're sealed in a vehicle out and about, mask on. I don't know. I know I'm not the only one that felt like that about stuff, but
the same thing happened to me, but I was riding a motorcycle and I saw this. I was driving by a really gigantic field. I mean, a huge field. And I see somebody walking like halfway in the middle of the field, nobody near him at all, but he was wearing a mask too, just like that. And I was like, that broke my heart. I'm like, and then, back in 2018, I took a trip to Japan and Singapore with some friends, and in Japan, it was common for all kinds of Japanese to wear masks back then. And I don't know if that was like a trial run for what came in Event 201 back in 2019 when they started, preparing for the whole PR stunt. So I don't really know, but it's the fact is, I mean, the Japanese were wearing masks, like surgical masks, like that a lot. And, yeah.
Well, and this is what I really appreciate about this song, this Masked Man, is that positive end to it. I really liked that because there's plenty of stuff about, look at this weirdo wearing a mask, a diver's helmet, as Matt said, exaggerated maybe a little. I've seen some crazy stuff people have fashioned, but to not just leave it at that, and to finish the story, so to speak, where the guy kind of, he's going to be proactive. He's moving himself out of the matrix, right? And there's a line in there about you don't have to be help me with that. You don't have to be a slave anymore, or something.
You don't have to live in this prison you built.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
So that would be my dream and hope for Masked Man, is that in some small way it contributes to inoculating people from any future psyop, whether it's related to Big Pharma or not, so that we're not so duped so easily en masse into following after these liars, And
the other half of that is not just the sadness you feel, but the intense, what's the word I would use? Undeserved respect that the elite, you have to give them for conducting this kind of psychological warfare operation to this degree that it would affect people years after,
the poor children in the schools and stuff.
Yeah, all that. And that my hope for that young man was that he would do what this song is a story of, what I hope he will do, is break free from his own prison that he's built by realizing and studying and learning and evolving his worldview, taking back his power from the externalities and the crowds, and beginning to formulate his own solutions, which are sort of what we talked about a week ago, Case, and about how Buckminster Fuller said, instead of going to war with the existing system, create a new one that makes the old one obsolete, and then you become the solution as opposed to a problem standing in your own way, and that's the real hero's journey, is to embrace the light within you and learn to apply it to solution-oriented thinking that then puts you in a different category and in a higher cognitive state. You access the higher cognitive spheres of reality, and you can learn to master your fate as opposed to just being a prisoner aboard a slave ship, and so it's really the rising above of the master-slave relationship, which I mentioned that in the song. You played the role of master-slave, and to just say that when you get to a place of real psychic immunity and the imperial self begins to exert its will versus the will of the superego, which is the tyrant in everyone's head, that also is very powerful. That can be absolutely employed to work for you in your life. The imperial self is the one who slays the dragon of the tyrant in the head, the superego, the voice of the parents, the voice of society saying you must conform, you must do this. Number 6 in The Prisoner, or the great classic Twilight Zone with Burgess Meredith, where he's the librarian and they're saying, you're obsolete, librarians are obsolete,
You are obsolete, Mr. Wordsworth.
A lie. No man is obsolete. I am nothing more than a reminder to you that you cannot destroy truth by burning pages. I am a human being.
Well, I'm not obsolete. Words still have power and they retain their meaning. And so when you apply yourself as a solution, then you really do rise above that master-slave relationship and you become something wholly different that the system cannot comprehend or control. And that's what I think truly exiting the matrix is, because then your day isn't weighed against your own fears. You employ the heroic in you, and your fears take a back seat as opposed to driving. And then yourself is in the back seat going, what about me? Why are you putting me back here? And I got to worry about what cheese I eat or what. I'm just poking at you, Rob. You mentioned some cheese.
Yeah, we're talking about animal rennet. And
Yeah, make sure it's a good rennet. I'm like, it's Wisconsin. It's made in Wisconsin. It's real cheese. They actually have a label for that. But yeah,
it's because most other cheeses created basically by Pfizer, because they use the lab grown rennet, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
And
but yeah, it's to say that the true self is the most powerful damn thing in the universe, and it's aligned with the creator, which is the creative aspect in you. And that's how I think we win this. We out-create the menace. And I've said that for a long time on my podcast and other places. But I truly think that the hidden power is within each and every one of us. And all we have to do is start tapping that. And that's what the natural music, the synth scene in Masked Man represents, a tapping into that inner divine power that comes direct from nature.
Well, that was a lot wrapped into this nice little package you just set up there, and I want people to understand that all of what you said, for me, it comes through. It comes through in this song, and I really do like it. I do like it.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah.
I like you had said something about create our own solution was the create our own system, because the line in there, like you had said about you don't have to be a prisoner anymore, right? In the mind prison, that like we kind of put ourselves in it, right? So like, for example, if I think someone has authority over me, then that's I'm doing it to myself. They might try to do stuff to me, but I can make them vanish with a snap of a finger if I just ignore them. It's kind of a stupid thing to think about, like, oh, you got to wear your mask. We're talking about that, right? You got to wear your mask, and I'm like, you don't have to do what they say. And then, like, if you just ignore them, they just go away. Like, it's so simple. But even with some of the fear things lately, they've been pumping across, the media, whether it's another virus or it's another this, once you just are like, well, that's just fake and stupid, it just like goes away, it dissolves. And we're seeing some of that. I don't know, I feel like some people are waking up a little bit, or at least to the point where they think, I don't know, they're suspicious. You're going to have those group of people, I call them NPCs, right? They're non-player characters. They're completely lost in the sauce. No imagination, no creative anything. They can't think outside of the box that has been set up for them. And then there's a whole ton of people arranged in the middle who are maybe that number, I think, has grown. And then, like, I would put people like us that, when people are like, hey, did you know that that whole thing might not have been real? And we're like, yeah, we've been saying that for like years. That's always annoying to me if somebody's like, oh, you're into, this, looking into this kind of stuff. Did you know, da, da, da? I'm like, yeah, I was talking about that like 15 years ago. Like, where you been? Get with the program. But, so anyway, I'm kind of rambling because I'm excited about it. I like it. I think it will resonate with a lot of different people. Hopefully, like you were saying, somebody might come across it and be like, man, that was me. I was the masked man, but not anymore.
Exactly.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was written in part for that too, but it's not just COVID that this could be applied to. It could be applied to 9/11. It could be applied to the recent hantavirus. And just look there. Okay, I was around in 9/11 times researching stuff. Where only 0.0000001% of the population really knew anything or even questioned the 9/11 narrative. Today, I'd say about 25 to 33% of the populace are hip to at least some sort of the grand conspiracy, if you will, which is multifaceted. But hantavirus died out. I mean, like that. It was around, and then where'd it go? Well, it disappeared because nobody's listening or buying this BS anymore, which is a wonderful sign in my eyes. So, yeah, you must not only look at what is dark and evil, lest it become part of you, and it can literally overtake you to where that's what a black pillar is known as, right? Because their entire outlook is dark. Where you see a sunset, they see a chemtrail. Where you see, goodness, they see evil lurking. And that can become a person's worldview, which is just like building a prison around yourself. You may, yes, know about all these conspiracies, but if that's your entire outlook, you're also paralyzed and unable to create anything, to do anything about it. So it's a fine balance in my mind that you must have just as much of an input of light as you do a focus on either light or dark, but none too much, none to excess. It's the pillars of Delphi. Know thyself, but none to excess, to where it actually causes damage to you or others. But time and place for everything. And I think this song sort of, for me, represents, again, somebody that did come out of this era triumphantly, from fear to triumph. And we can all do this. It's Joseph Campbell's The Hero with 1,000 Faces, only it's told in a musical operatic sense and way rather than on the stage, so as a play, for instance. So yeah, it's within all of our grasp, and we all have that inner power to be able to do something about situations and come to a higher sphere of cognition, if you will.
Well, yeah, that's great. And we're about at our time. That I was saying I wouldn't keep you too long. But I want to just have you guys tell us where people can see your stuff, where they can listen to the music. Just go ahead and plug all of that before we head out.
Sure. Ordertheone.com is really the number one place to go to find all the links. So all our social media links are there for Facebook, for X, for Rumble, for YouTube, all of that. And you can hear the songs through various platforms. You can click on the links for Masked Man at the top in the from the homepage, and it'll take you to a DistroKid page, which will give you a link to all the different platforms that we're on, or to the main platforms we're on, like Apple Music and Spotify and a few others. Pandora is supposed to be there, but it hasn't showed up in Pandora yet. But it's on most of the others right now. But and we're on Instagram as well. You can follow us on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube, on X, even Telegram. I think we have a Telegram room. Yep. Am I missing anything, Matt?
That should do it. I'm going to drop all the links into the chat here for you, Kason, so you can just copy that,
Perfect.
Put it in the more info under the video if you wouldn't mind. And
yeah, we've got reviews posted there too from some wonderful podcasters who've said some great things about us. And even my neighbor, my neighbor is a former publicist for the Beatles, and she said she really likes our songs.
And we didn't have to slip her a pack of cigarettes for her to say that.
No.
Either.
Hey,
But,
can you leave us a review?
She told me, she said, Rob, your song is great. I love it, but you guys need a publicist. And I said, well, you are a publicist for the Beatles, but I don't think she's ready to come out of retirement. Matt knows her. She met him. He met her and his husband.
Yeah.
Maybe we ought to just fake our coming to the UK and hire a couple busloads of girls and give them cigarettes to come in and yell at us. The way the Beatles did, but in reverse. We'll call this the American invasion, and we'll invade Europe and save it from its collapse. How's that?
Yeah.
She has so many interesting stories about that.
Oh, I bet. I bet. Well, that's cool. Yeah. Well, I appreciate you guys' time. I appreciate the work you're doing.
Thanks.
Turning out a positive message by way of music, even if we look at some dark times to get that inspiration from. I really liked it, and appreciate your time here. I enjoyed our time, and with that, I'll sign us off, and appreciate any listeners who had or viewers who had come by. And until next time, be sure to keep your powder dry, and we'll see ya.
Masked man, you are a hero no more. Masked man, afraid to walk through the door.
I'm already recording, so
You'll edit the first part out.
yeah, we'll leave 8 minutes of. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Yeah. And I got all your links.
Yeah,
right
if you don't like anything I'm saying, you can start playing the music over me.
Yeah, like, oh, we gotta go. Okay, thanks. Bye.
Every time Rob's talking, there's music playing.
Every time Rob talks, oh, we're gonna go to a music video or whatever.
Nobody puts lightning in a corner. He'll electrocute you.